It's 3 a.m., your phone buzzes, another message. Please help me leave Africa. Now imagine waking up to hundreds of those every single day. That's exactly how this whole conversation started. And what one Ghanaian woman said next. It has the entire internet arguing, laughing, agreeing, and honestly, thinking a little deeper. But before we break it down, let's listen to what she had to say. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment and share. Now let's get back to the video.
It's 3:01 a.m. that I'm doing this video. I have been asking myself, I posted a video on the official website of Finland on my page, and I'm flooded with a lot of African countries, in my DM, telling me if I can just help them to leave Africa. I wake up every day to replying 1,000 messages from people in Africa asking for jobs where I am, if I can just help them to leave Africa. I did not get a single person from South Africa asking for those jobs. I have gotten people from Botswana, Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria, a lot of countries, Mali. I can do it. I don't know why the African youth all of a sudden are on the internet, having problems with the youth of South Africa who are asking a Ghanaian illegal immigrant to leave their country. Listen, I am not into propaganda, and I would speak to your conscience every time you see me on your screen. I'm not into propaganda. South Africa is for South Africans. I have seen people talking about apartheid. What has apartheid got to do with what is happening currently in South Africa? So because we helped them during who told you that even apartheid, they don't have issues in their own country when we are still talking about South Africa right now? Because we all know there are white supremacy in South Africa. Listen, African youth, I don't know why our leaders are making all the youth to go this way. My heart is filled with so much sorrow when I see African youth from African countries, especially Ghana, being on TikTok and talking about how other African countries have helped South Africa. So if we have helped South Africa and today they are talking to their leaders to clean up their systems, is it something that you cannot understand? You see, let's speak to the issues. The Ghanaian man that was found in the video, was he wrong or not? For me, I am not dealing with issues in South Africa when the person from Ghana acknowledged that he had something to do with illegality. For goodness sake, Ghanaians are crying out loud that there are illegal migrants in Ghana. So are you saying South Africans cannot stand up to illegalities because their leaders have failed them? Is that what all other African countries, all African youth are saying? Is that what we are saying right now? That we are rallying behind these political leaders to be talking about South Africans being ingrates? I now understand why Africa is the way it is. Why most of the African countries, the leaders, are doing what they are doing. I now understand why our leaders travel outside for treatment and our countries are still the way it is. I speak to issues. I don't use my emotions. What business? We can talk about the fact that probably they should look at the guy with human face. But some of these European countries we find ourselves, if your documents are not right and you are not seeking asylum, your country is not at war, you are being deported. Why do we want to support wrong just because of apartheid? You see, I don't know why the youth are just being blinded in this manner. What is happening? Because I came to this internet to speak to the truth, and I've been seeing British Americans here, and they tell me how bad they feel about colonization. But look at our countries. We are still living like we are under colonial rule. The leaders are doing things that we are not happy with. We want at least the basic health care facilities. We want at least schools to be, we have students should not be sitting under trees in this 21st century. We want all communities to be having potable drinking water. These small things we are asking our leaders. We are not getting it. And we are trying to see how we can even push for leaders to end. South African youth are rising up to speak, and you come on the internet, and what are you saying? What is it not these same leaders that are making things difficult for you, that everybody wants to travel out of Africa? Oh God. No.
So here's what happened. A Ghanaian woman jumped online and spoke her mind. No filters, no sugarcoating, just straight talk. She said she's been flooded with messages from young Africans across the continent begging her to help them find jobs abroad, especially in places like Finland, Botswana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Mali, the list goes on. But here's the twist that got people talking. She said not a single South African had asked her for help leaving. Now pause right there. Already, you can feel the tension building, right? Because this isn't just about jobs anymore. This is about perception, pride, frustration, and let's be honest, a bit of continental rivalry. She goes further and addresses the elephant in the room, xenophobia in South Africa. And instead of jumping on the usual bandwagon, she flips the script completely. She says, look, South Africa is for South Africans. And suddenly, people online are like, wait, what? Because usually, conversations around xenophobia are emotional, heated, and sometimes one-sided. But she comes in with a different angle. She asks a very uncomfortable question. If someone is in a country illegally, is it wrong for citizens to demand enforcement of the law? Now, don't get it twisted, this is where things get complicated. Because on one hand, you have human compassion. Nobody wants to see people suffer, nobody wants families torn apart, and nobody wants to feel like Africa is turning against itself. But on the other hand, there's sovereignty. Every country has laws, even those European countries people are rushing to. Try staying there without documents, you won't last long. And she actually points that out. She says in many of these countries Africans are trying to get into, if your papers aren't right, you're gone. No debates, no trending hashtags, just deportation. So her argument is simple. Why is it suddenly a problem when South Africans demand the same? Now here's where things get really interesting. She shifts the focus away from South Africa completely and turns it back onto the rest of Africa. And this part, it hits hard. She basically says African youth are angry, but maybe at the wrong people. Instead of focusing on fixing their own countries, improving systems, holding leaders accountable, people are online fighting South Africans. And she's like, why? Think about it. She's waking up to messages from people desperate to leave their own countries. That's not a small issue. That's not a TikTok trend. That's a real, deep problem. Because if everything was working back home, good jobs, healthcare, education, would people be begging strangers online for an exit plan? Probably not. And she doesn't stop there. She calls out leaders too. She questions why basic things, like clean water, proper schools, functioning hospitals, are still a struggle in many African countries in 2026. And honestly, that part feels less like a rant and more like a reality check. Because let's be real for a second. You can't blame young people for wanting better opportunities. That's human nature. But at the same time, if everyone is trying to leave, who's left to build? It's like everyone is trying to escape the same burning house, but nobody is trying to put out the fire. And then she brings up something. That always sparks debate. Apartheid. She questions why people keep bringing it into current issues like immigration enforcement. And whether or not you agree with her, it forces you to think about how history is used in modern arguments. Now, this is where the internet goes wild. Because some people agree with her completely. They're like, yes, finally someone is speaking facts without emotions. Others, not so much. They feel like she's ignoring the human side of the situation. And that's the thing about this whole topic, it's messy. There's no easy answer. It's not black and white. It's layers on layers of history, economics, politics, and human survival. But here's what makes her message stand out. She keeps coming back to accountability. Not just for governments, but for individuals too. She's basically saying, instead of turning every issue into us versus them, maybe it's time to ask bigger questions. Why are so many young Africans trying to leave? What's not working? And more importantly, what can actually be done about it? Because arguing online won't fix unemployment. It won't build schools. It won't improve healthcare. It just burns energy, a lot of it. And let's be honest, African Twitter, X, is undefeated when it comes to arguments. People will write essays, bring receipts, quote history, even add memes for extra spice. But after all that, what changes? Exactly.